Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our 6:30 p.m. live stream. We are nearing the finish line. We have one more live stream after this. This is a 24-hour fundraising challenge, our virtual fundraising day of giving. It happens once a year. So thank you so much for everyone who's donated so far. We appreciate you, and we appreciate each and every dollar. And what's wonderful is to know that every dollar that you give, that it does stay local. It goes to support our local programming and our locally funded partners, and does make a difference for your friends, your family, your neighbors. So we really want to express our appreciation. We are very excited to share that we have passed our goal. We are at 8,121. And what does that mean? Oh, we break out the stretch goal, baby. So now we're pushing for that 10,000. It's 6:30 tonight. We have until 8 a.m. tomorrow to try to make that happen. So for those of you who are just joining us tonight, please make that donation and help us reach that stretch goal. We're absolutely thrilled that we were able to hit 8,000, but we thought, hey, the day is not over. The job is not done. We will carry on, and we're going to go for that stretch goal. So thank you to everyone who's already donated. Just a reminder, we are Susquehanna Valley United Way. We fight for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in our community. We welcome you to our 6:30 p.m. Impact area, where we're going to talk about community impact and what that means. How does your dollar work? How do we use your dollar? And how does it play out in this community impact model that we are now working under, in hopes of really progressing and pushing the community needs to the forefront of what we are working towards and finding real tangible solutions for. So I would like to also let you know that there is an opportunity to give. You can make a donation. There should be a link that is populating in your chat at the moment. If it is not, please let me know. I will find another way to get it in there for you. I did have a little trouble with that during our last live stream, but make a donation. You can text give 10 20 22 to 41444, and that will also take you into a donation link through your text messaging. So that's another way to give. And without further ado, I would love to welcome back our president and CEO, Adrienne Mail.
Hi, Danielle.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here again.
Yeah. I'm actually really excited about this particular segment. I think that this really helps to explain to people the work that we do as an organization and why we're so passionate. So I'd love for you to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. So, talking about community impact and all the work we do in the community and how it gets done is, of course, one of my favorite things to talk about here at United Way. And I think that a lot has changed at United Way over the last 10 or so years. So, I think it's really great that community members know what we still love to do and what we hold on to, but the new things and the way that it's changing. So, Danielle, I think you might have some slides for me to talk about community impact.
Oh,
Thank you.
yes, I do. Yes, I do.
So to start off, we're just going to talk about what it is United Way does. So, our mission, of course, is to fight for the health, education, and financial stability of every family in our 5 counties. But what does that really mean, and what does that really look like? So we do this work in 2 different ways. And the first way we lovingly refer to as our traditional model. It's what United Way was based on, and what many people still know us for, and that's the fundraising. And the fundraising, of course, kicks off in the fall of every year. Our annual Day of Giving really kicks off fundraising for us. And actually, in the next couple of days, we'll be delivering campaign materials to our homes and our employers, and so it's a good time of year for us. So the money, like I actually just said, comes predominantly from residential community members, and then also from our fantastic employers, which ask their employees to give. And then also, really support us as well. So I'll save some of that for later because I know our director of philanthropy is going to be coming on to talk to us as well. But the traditional model and that fundraising is how we really support our organization and how we support our fantastic funded partners. 57 of them are partner agencies that all do work in health, education, and financial stability and have high quality programs that we check in on every single year. And they're gracious enough to fill out our applications. So these are really, our fantastic organizations that we know are doing high quality work to make sure that our community members are safe and secure in their homes and have great things to do in the community. So we love the traditional model. We are never going to give up the fundraising, the sending money out to our nonprofits. For those of you that really just love to designate your dollars especially through our employee campaigns to those nonprofits, it will never stop. And we support you doing that because we love our nonprofits too. So, what we've learned over the last 10 or 15 years at United Way is that fundraising money and sending it out to our nonprofits is awesome, but it's not quite enough. So, United Way Worldwide, and this is one of the reasons that I really love working for Worldwide, has said, or love working for United Way, said, hey, what can we do to better support our communities? So, what can we do to better support our communities? And that's the community impact model. And this is the idea of really understanding the needs of our local community and then working with our funded partners, with other nonprofits, with other community organizations. And we have some ones that we really rely on that help us do the work. And we identify needs in the community. And then we say to ourselves, hey, what can we do to make a difference in our local community? So, one example that I wanted to share with you tonight of how we do this community impact work is our new work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So basically, we know that we want to have communities that are open and accepting and fair for all. I think everyone now is very familiar with our Be Kind campaign. We really love that. We love the idea of being kind. We know that the work goes beyond being kind. And so, actually, several years ago, some fantastic community members came together and said, what would it look like if we put some money together, hired someone who could help us understand what needs to, we always like to start with what's great in our local community, and we love that. But then where are the gaps? What needs to change? What could be fixed so that it's fair and equal for every community member in our 5-county area? So now we're going to hear from our community mapping strategist, Rebecca, very shortly on tonight about our community mapping work, where we're really trying to hear from community members. What do you love about the community? What could change? We're going to take the information after it's done, maybe in 6 months, maybe a little bit longer. We're going to look at that information and then bring people in all of the different areas where we can strengthen our needs, our community, in this community mapping project, of which there are, lots to be delved into. We're going to bring our community members together and say, hey, we know that this is a gap. How can we make positive change? And then ideally, what United Way does is infuses it, sprinkles it, hopefully with grant money, sometimes fundraised by us, sometimes by grants, sometimes other community members. And we're going to see how we can make some change. So we're really, the diversity, equity, and inclusion work is our newest impact area. We're really excited to add it to our live streams today. So that's what we're doing there. Rebecca's going to come and talk to us more about it. The other thing, and another really great way that I love to talk about this, and it's kind of the next iteration of community impact, is our makerspace. Oh, and also, no problem, Danielle. I'll just talk for a minute because I think I have it about our makerspace work. So if you were on today, the 4 o'clock live stream, we talked a lot about teen programming, teen centers, children's museums, and our new United We Can model. So we are really invested in making sure that youth in our community have safe places to go after school and great things to invest in. We know that it strengthens their mental health. We know that it helps in prevention of substance use disorder. And we know that it also really helps to build up their skills for later years when they're in the workforce. So community impact and makerspace is another really great example of bringing excellent organizations to the table and saying, hey, there's already really great things happening here. What could we do if we infuse this with a little bit of money? What could we do if everyone took a second? We know you're really busy doing your work, but if everyone came together and talked a little bit about what we could do. And one of the things that has come out of that, and some of this was already happening, but we've been really able to expand it through our 5 counties because of this collaboration, is mobile makerspace, making sure that areas that didn't have access to makerspace equipment and all of that STEAM and STEM programming now have access to it, because we're able to take organizations who are really doing the work well, infuse them with a little bit of money, and send them out to more rural areas that maybe didn't have access before. So the most exciting part of this work for me, in addition to sending great programming out to our community, is that the grants that we are getting in for this work are actually grants that are going to our funded partners. So traditionally, we have always just sent money to our funded partners through traditional fundraising. Now we're able to send money through grants as well. And that's really the next iteration of where we're trying to head. How do we make sure that our funded partners are being supported through the campaign? And then also, how do we make sure and how can we get grant money out to them to help support the great work that they're doing in a different way? So we're really, excited to launch our campaign. We love our traditional model, but we're excited about community impact. There's so many examples I could share of how it's really made a difference in our community. And now we have this great kind of additional thing where we're sending money out through grants to our funded partners. And we really hope in the years to come that we can do a lot more of that. So I'm ready for the next slide, Danielle.
No problem. Thank you so much.
So, basically, just in a nutshell, the work that we do is really always about leveraging that local knowledge and those local relationships. And, it's so important because I really think that when we all take a pause and we're all able, what United Way kind of does best is have those meetings, ask people to just stop and take an hour and talk about the needs and talk about, hey, if we could do absolutely anything and money wasn't an option, what would we do? And why can't we do that? And okay, so here's a barrier because we're in a rural area, transportation or, not having the grant access that maybe they do in bigger cities, but like, that's okay. How do we go around that? What are the workarounds? So we, of course, are always, stopping people saying, hey, what can we do to make things a little bit better? Then we're taking those campaign dollars, we're taking those the grant funding. We've been very successful in grant funding in the last few years. And I really think that has a lot to do with the community impact work and bringing multiple groups to the table. So every grant we go after, it's not just for United Way. It's never for United Way, actually, but it's really, how do we leverage all of these different partners to do something different? So those programs and those partnerships really come together to just do this community impact work and to make our community a better place. And, we're just so excited to always be aligning these great organizations. We have no idea how lucky we are to be here with so many fantastic people who are making a difference, in their organizations. And then, of course, kind of what the bottom is saying is the icing on top is that in the most ideal situation, we're aligning programs with our nonprofits to really do that community work and get those dollars out to the, to the nonprofits who are doing the work and where we want the money to be. So, so that's it. That's community impact in a nutshell. We're going to hear from some others today who are going to, kind of share a little bit more about the work that we do. But first, I'm going to turn it over to Seth Joseph, who is our Director of Philanthropy, to tell us a little bit more about him and his role.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Adrian, so much for talking about community impact there. Really, I think my role as the Director of Philanthropy, I mentioned it last night, is that in our kickoff is philanthropy is really about the love of humankind and to be able to spread kindness and really support one another. And I'm excited to be working on that and really want to talk about the importance of funding in that community impact model. Really, Adrian, you're talking about those first 2 steps in that community impact model of first convening and understanding the issues of our area, and then ultimately infusing those with dollars and with funding. And that's ultimately what the United Way is looking to do. So I just want to really reiterate that. And a lot of the times projects and initiatives are developed in those community impact discussions. Ideas are formulated, um, and it's ultimately when projects are infused with dollars that we really start to see an impact being made. So I wanted to mention also the community mapping project and the makerspace program as just perfect examples of community impact fundraising and funding, um, how that is making a difference in our area. So, Adrian, you mentioned that ad hoc committee who came together a few months ago to understand what the need was to fill the DEI role. And we were able to come together as that committee and then go out to different funders. So I just want to mention a few of those. Geisinger, Service First, thank you again. Community Giving Foundation, Bloomsburg University, Susquehanna University, and some other individual donors who were able to support the launching of that program. And Rebecca is going to join us later on to talk about how it's expanding. And now that it's started, we've been able to, we just got an award from the First Community Foundation as well to support that work. So it's this combination of individual and corporate donors who had started the project and the program, and now it's being infused with grant dollars as well. So those coming together and really everybody coming together and funding that program. I'm excited to hear more about how that's expanding. And then the Makerspace project as well. Really, when I started 3 years ago at the United Way, it was time for Teens in Milton, the Lewisburg Children's Museum, the Rec in Selinsgrove, really coming together as sort of these hub organizations who are leading the charge in the makerspace realm. And just over the years, it's really continued to grow and build and build. And now we have so many different partner organizations that are really making an impact in that area. Regional libraries, we're now working with the CSIU and different funders and really coming together. Adrian, you mentioned earlier in the day about expanding the Teen Center program for the Cause Teen Centers work and expanding that model. And because of our ability to convene the stakeholders, we're able to go after more competitive grant opportunities, and we're really able to make a bigger impact in our region. So again, just wanted to reiterate some of the points that Adrian was making about when we really come together around a particular impact area, not only coming together in these community impact realms, but coming together and giving. And that's really what today is all about. So I would really just want to encourage everybody to give. The day is not over. We still have, a good amount of time left. So encourage everybody to get your donation in, and hopefully we can reach that stretch goal. And I'll turn it back.
Seth, thank you so much. I love what you were saying about it all being about us coming together. So I'm going to ask you to finish a sentence that a lot of us have been doing throughout the day. Would you mind finishing this sentence of "Together we can"?
There's so many good options. I
I
think I have to go with the United Way branded "Together we can live united."
love that. Well, Seth, I, for one, am very excited about your new role. I know that you and I have been working together very closely this year, and just have a lot of respect for you as my cohort. And I love seeing your passion for philanthropy and for bringing folks together and seeing how that could give back even more to our community. Everything you shared is so poignant, and exactly why we're here today. As you said, it is a day of giving, it's a day of coming together, it's a day of celebration. And we are are actually pushing for that stretch goal. So I did want to thank you for for encouraging folks to give. There is a link in the bio. That's Instagram talk. There's a link in the chat for you to click on, or you can also text give 10 20 22 to the numbers 41444, and that'll also take you into our donation form. So Seth, thank you so much for sharing. Huzzah! And hopefully we can continue on. As we said, we're pushing through till 8 a.m. tomorrow. So I think you'll be joining us again at 8 a.m. for our finale and our celebration. So thank you for what you've shared, and together we can live united. Well, Seth is an incredible person to be working with. We have so many wonderful cohorts and colleagues at the United Way. It really is a beautiful team. And another one of those team members who's joining us tonight, who you've heard mentioned a few times already, is Rebecca. She's going to be joining us in just a few moments, and she's going to be sharing more about our community mapping project. Rebecca, welcome.
Thanks. Hi.
Hi. Do you want to introduce yourself and share a little bit more about what the community mapping project is and your role in it specifically?
Sure. Yeah. I'm Rebecca Fairbairn, and I am anchoring, let's say, the community mapping project, which is a 5-county wide, our whole United Way footprint wide attempt to create a deeply human, story-based, experience-based understanding of what it's like for people to live here. All the people who live here, which is a wildly, diverse and wide-ranging group of folks. And each of us, it's just so amazing to get to sort of think about our whole region, because each little pocket has, there's similarities and there's differences. The difference between what it's like to live in Danville versus Shamokin versus Bloomsburg versus Lewisburg. Each community has its own culture and its own stories, and we share a lot also. So the community mapping project is an attempt to get those stories on the map, as we'd say. My role is as its anchor, and it's sort of like I'm holding all the strings. Right. And one of the things that I love the most about this project is that we I am really holding all the strings, and the spools just get sort of thrown out to our partners who take them up and carry, everybody sort of takes a piece of what this project is and moves it into their network and their community. And I think I sort of am analogously to the community mapping project, what the United Way is to the sort of landscape of support and care in the region, which is like an anchoring and an anchoring place where things can come together, connections can be made, sort of energy can be instigated and drawn out.
Absolutely. So I have a few questions for you.
Yes.
One, I'm going to be adding the community mapping survey into our chat in just a few moments. But I know that you also wanted to kind of show people what the survey looked like. And I believe we also have an incident report form, which is a little bit separate, but very much a part of the dialogue we're creating around our community mapping project. So I didn't know what you wanted to start with first. And then also, I know that you had a couple of you wanted to share about all the exciting and, pieces of the project that have happened so far and the experiences that you've had thus far.
We're having wild adventures.
Yes.
So the mapping project has a couple layers to it. We basically wanted to there are 2 goals: create a sort of human experience-based map of the region that's really open to people sharing their stories and experiences, right? Because we have a lot of data. And I normally, when I'm doing this with sort of like a live audience, I say raise your hand when data really changed your heart, right? But if people hear even one story, often that can create transformation, right? So we want to have the stories that go with the data and the stories that there's no data for, right? In order to really like inspire whatever needs to be inspired. So back to our structure.
Yes.
So we want to create those, sort of gather those things, but we also, I was very excited to create a process that would do some of the work. So the process that we've created builds community, empowers folks who often get sort of left out of the conversation, connects different communities across the region for sort of resource sharing, right? One of the things I talk about when I present the project is say you have, this is actually a real life example. There's one school district in our region that has a really well-organized parent advocacy group that's like fighting for their kids and has figured out how to kind of come together and be organized. And then there's another community that I've talked to, a different school district, where a lot of the parents I've talked to have the same frustration, but feel powerless about it. So one of the goals of the community mapping project is to say, hey, here's a strength we have in the region, and here's a struggle that we're having. But actually, if we put these two communities of folks together and they talk to each other, that strength can support that struggle, right? So part of the mapping project is to find those pockets of strength and resource and those pockets of particular struggles and connect the resource and strengths to the particular struggles. So I want to sort of share, we have a website, which Danielle, I'm actually, if it's okay with you, I think you have all the links. I can do it from mine also, but.
Oh, I have them queued up. Which one did you want to look at
Great.
first?
Let's look at the community mapping webpage, which is the United Way sort of landing moment.
That one I don't have queued up.
You know what? Let's forget it. Let's look at the community questions instead. Sure. We'll start there.
That I have.
Okay.
Here we go.
Perfect. So we basically wanted to create, like I said, a way to gather stories, but to gather stories, you have to create an open platform for listening. So it's interesting to try to do that on the internet, but this is what we've come up with. And Danielle, if you just want to scroll down on that, the questions are, so the questions are, what do you love about where you live? What would you change if you could? What's important to you and why? What's the hardest thing from the last year? And then there's sort of like, check this if it's true about, if you know it to be true about your school district, or if you think it's true about your school district. Check, how it goes for you to get medical care. And then we have sort of demographic questions at the end. I'll note here, because I think it's exciting and important to note, one of the reasons we ask those demographic questions, because sometimes people are like, that feels personal, why do you need to ask that? Is if like everybody over 65 in a certain area, a certain town says, I can't get to my doctor's appointments because rapid transit is too inefficient in this section and I wish there was public transport, or I need, whatever. If we find out that like, oh, this constituency of people has this particular struggle together in this particular place, then we say, oh, we can try to figure out how to like who to talk to or who to connect or how to fix it, right? If everybody in under 13 in this place has had the same sort of difficult incident at school, then we can say, oh, something seems to be going on here, right? But if it's just sort of random, like we can tell that 10 people had this trouble at school, but we don't know if it's all the same district or across the districts, or if 25 people had trouble accessing healthcare, but we have no idea if it's all in the same age range or all, then we don't have as much information to create transformation. So part of why we ask those questions is to sort of know where we need to leverage our change capacity. So that is the community questions. It's our goal, actually. I love this goal, to get every single human being in all 5 counties to answer the community questions. If you would like to join in that, you are totally free to contact me. My email address is community at, it used to be GSVUW, but we are joined fully now. And I am, Danielle, will you shout out my new email?
Community, sorry. It's community@svuw.org. Woo!
As far as we know, it works. We think.
Yes, it works. I made sure.
That's a new update. That's awesome. So if you want to get involved in like hosting a survey party or talking to your friends and neighbors and getting them to do this or anything like that, we would love that. Send the link to all your friends and family. So next is our incident report. This is sort of the online structure. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the fun stuff. The online stuff is fun. It has a broad reach. So the incident report is like, if something in particular happened to you, I heard somebody shout a racial slur on the street the other day. I couldn't see who shouted it. I didn't know why they shouted it. That is something that I would record in the incident report. Like, oh, hey, this was unpleasant. I noticed it, right? So it might be things like that. Might be other things. Anything that sort of has a particular, people kind of know the particular flavor, right? Something that's sort of identity or perceived identity based. That's like, that didn't quite seem right. So the incident report, none of the online forms require any identification, right? So there's a complete confidentiality in the information that we're gathering. It's fully like we're listening, and there's not going to be, any repercussions or naming or blaming. None of that is happening, right? It's just you get to say what happened. You get to say what your experience is. If you want to put your contact information because you're like, this is a cool thing, I want to get involved, put your contact information. If you don't, the Google Forms aren't recording anything at all, right? So it's fully confidential. Then I'm going to move on to, if you want to, Danielle, I hope it's okay. I'm relying on your expertise. If you want to put up the listening booth at the Bloomsburg Fair. So the first level is our sort of online forms, which are sort of a way to cast a wide net, right? So anybody can access them. We have posters and business cards. Here's a little business card with QR codes for both the community questions and the incident reports. Various businesses and organizations are hanging those posters and handing out those flyers. We're also creating listening booths in public. We've done one at a library. We did a listening booth at the Bloomsburg Fair. And if you, Danielle, want to pop that picture up, I don't know how hard or
I'm
easy
looking
that
for
is.
it. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. No worries. No,
I will pull it up though. I'm getting it for you.
It was my plan to do it all by myself, but
if you have it ready to go, you can share your screen and I'll pop it in for you.
Okay. I think I got it. No, that's my whole screen, not I tried to share just the image.
If you click on the windows at the top, it'll give you just one to show. It'll show you which one.
I got it now. Perfect. Okay. So this.
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
Ooh.
Is the listening. Oops. Oh, I disappeared. Okay. That's the listening booth at the fair itself, right? And so you can see it's like a nice cozy spot, right? And we set it up as a place of sort of like respite and connection in the like chaos and wooden benches of the fair, right? And what it did was say, like, we're kind of here for you as a safe space. We had it staffed with trained listeners who were basically there to say, tell us your stories. We want to hear them. And you get to choose what you want to share with us. And people shared amazing things. Danielle, I'm going to, if you want to stop sharing that one, I can set it up to share the next one. So we had it set up so that folks had things to interact with as well when there weren't volunteer listeners there. We had a map that you could put a pin in where you live. And that was it was really exciting to watch people sort of light up when they got to say, this is my place, this is where I'm from. And this is a young person from Bloomsburg sticking his pin in the map. And we also had where you live. And that was it was really.
Oops, sorry.
It's okay. I have another one coming up, I think. The next one that I shared. Did it show up? So we have another map image. Like, folks were really excited about sharing like where they're from and kind of locating themselves
Aww.
on the map.
Yeah.
We also had some of the questions from the survey itself. So people got to answer the question, what do you love about where you live, with Post-its if we weren't there, right? And you can see this is what's important. We had, what do you love? What would you change? And what's important to you? People love their families. People love the landscape. People love the river. Then there's one more image I want to show from the fair, which is this one. There's also, right, I love the sort of complexity that shows up in this slide about all the things that are here. It's almost there, right? It's getting ready to show up. There it is. Ta-da! So you sort of see these interesting things happen, right? And what we're doing is creating opportunities to like share and see things bump up against each other and then map that right across the region. I think we can finish sharing. I was really pleased by both the sort of how much people chose to interact at the fair, right? With the map and the Post-it notes. People really shared a lot. There were all sorts of interesting answers that showed up on the wall. And I also got a report from the booth next to it, which was a veterans booth, that like, oh yeah, when you guys aren't there, people come in and they like relax and they sort of like, you can see them kind of take a deep breath and take a couple minutes for themselves. And I just thought that was exactly the sort of perfect tone about what it is we're trying to be and offer with this project, which is like, we want to hear from you. We also just want to support you in whatever your experience is, whether or not we're there to listen. You know, we don't need you to tell us things in order for us to try to give you what you want. There's another layer, and then I think I'm going to be done with my little spiel. But there's the next layer is, of course, we're doing sort of groups of people talking to each other, right? So we're creating what are called story circles.
Ooh.
I know, right? It's the most fun. We got to do one. I did one with a group of people today. It was great.
Oh,
what people sort of, you gather, we're sort of finding folks who are interested in the project and want to facilitate a story circle. If you want to get in touch with me because you're like, that sounds like so much fun, or if you want to participate in a story circle. But story circles, we're sort of interested in making sure that we hear from folks who might not otherwise find us, folks who might sometimes get silenced, right? There's such complexity in our region. Like, there's so many different groups of people who I think are really sort of significant to hear from. One of the ones I've had sort of an interesting and exciting time trying to build a circle of local farmers to sort of have right? Because that's a really important part of our region that I think sometimes we don't fully get that part, you know?
Yeah. or hear about the challenges that they're facing or their successes. I do love how this mapping project isn't just about like what our challenges are as a region, but it's also so much about what we're trying to celebrate about our region, what we find beautiful about our region, the points of, as you called out, the points of coming together and the points of support. So I think that's one of the powerful things that we're doing, like, you know, like the act of listening to people who we know are in this community and we want to hear from, who maybe, as you said, aren't being heard from in the capacity that as a community, we should be hearing from.
Yeah, it's one of the sort of most exciting things to me is that it's just to hear people's individual stories and then sort of have those individual stories create this map of our region. Yeah, so a story circle, people get together and there's a prompt, and it might be something like, what's something you thought was going to be fun that turned out to be hard? or what's something, it could be today we did just tell a story that communicates something about where you live, right? And it's amazing to hear sort of what our human lived experience minds come up with such a simple prompt. And it deepens. We got to do a go around, like, what was this like for you as an experience? And people said it was empowering. They felt connected. It was transformative. It was, all these pieces. So in addition to building the sort of map that we're going to use to create sort of a broad strategic plan and sort of connect resources and strengths and think about where we might sort of get involved in creating transformation, it's also just something that is fundamentally transformative to do as a project, which is maybe the part that I think is most exciting, is that just by doing this, we're creating change.
Yeah, and community. And as you said, that connection. So that's just so powerful. Was there anything else that you wanted to share, Rebecca? I mean, I feel like we've really covered a good amount of ground. And just to remind folks, we do have the links to both the community mapping survey in the chat as well as the incident report form. So one of the things that we are going to ask that everyone does who's here is if you could just take a few moments at the end of our live stream and take the time to fill out the community mapping questionnaire and share your story with us. We really, truly want to hear from you. Your voice is important. Your perspective is important. And so is your experience here. And that's part of this, as Adrian, introduced us to, it's part of this community impact model is listening and hearing from you, our community members, and wanting to understand more about how it is you're experiencing our region and how it is you are tackling your everyday issues and challenges, but also what's bringing you joy, what passions do you have, what parts of our region really sparkle in you, So Rebecca, I appreciate you being our anchor. I know that this work is not for the faint of heart, and to put it lightly, and you really take it, really kind of brought like something from nothing, so like this didn't exist and here it is. And it really is an incredible opportunity for folks to just share. And, it matters. You matter. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And that's really, I think, for me, what the core of the community mapping project is a chance to share and hear our stories. Was there anything else that you wanted to share?
I just want to give a shout out to our community partners, many of whom have sort of like taken up the baton and been like, I know 10 ways I can make this go well. Yeah, let's do it. And that's part of the spirit of like the United Way that I love, is like
Yes.
this collaborative, like, oh yeah, we can do this. Let's do it.
It's amazing, isn't it? It truly is. It's one of those magical things about being in the United Way network and being one of our funded partners in partner organizations. It's incredible. Like we've had so many stories throughout the entire day today of that intersection and that connectedness across all of them. So did you have anyone in particular that you wanted to shout out, or is it really all of them?
All of them.
Yeah, we've had, I know that our local libraries have done a lot of like they've held some events. I'm not sure if you would categorize them as your list, as your
yeah. I think the libraries, I mean, Kathleen Thomas Beaver has been amazing. Lydia Bloomsburg has been amazing. We've sort of gotten sort of help and impetus and ideas and events and thoughtfulness, like ask a librarian. I love that. The tagline, like ask a librarian. Oh, don't know how you're going to have internet at the fair? Ask a librarian. Oh, not sure how to reach the whole community? Ask a librarian,
Yep. I'm always blown away how the libraries are such hubs and points of connection for communities, as well as like all, like our Ys. We had the Greater Susquehanna Valley YMCA on earlier. Like these just hubs for community and for empowerment. So we just thank you. I'm going to bring Adrian back on to kind of help us close out our 6:30 session. Look at all these fun ladies. Adrian, did you have anything you wanted to share and to help us close out our community mapping project piece? Oh, there you go.
Okay, I was like, I'm muted and I can't unmute. It's like the horror of our times, right? I can't unmute. No, I just want to say thank you to Rebecca for joining us and for all the work you're doing. And thank you to, of course, our fantastic community partners and all of our donors. This has been really wonderful, and there's still more time to give.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I want to say thank you to everyone. And so, Rebecca, did you want to say something?
I had a thought,
Ooh.
right, which I forgot to mention, but to talk, because this is a sort of donation-based thing. One of the things that's really significant about how the community mapping project is working is that there's an honorarium for community facilitators who are in traditionally marginalized groups. And I think one of the ways that things like that are like, we want to hear from your community, fail is that organizations sometimes don't have the support to offer resources to under-resourced folks or communities to get to be able to enable that participation, right? Like, are you providing childcare? Are you providing travel costs? Are you compensating for people's time and expertise and energy? Because if you're not, then you only get people who have sort of extra resource to give, right? And so it's amazing to actually be able to have and infuse that resource into communities and into our community so that we get to hear all the voices, not just the voices who like have free time or the, really. So I think that's just in terms of funding, like funding really, really, really matters when we're talking about being together and thinking together and working together as a community, because if you can't fund projects well, you can't hear from everybody because people need resources to make that happen. So if you don't have extra resources, that's one of the ways you get silenced, is that, you know, everybody gets to participate if you can, if you have access to childcare, if you have enough money for gas, if you have, you know, however many hours you can donate, right? And donating hours, if you're really, really crunched for time and you don't make enough money to feed your kids or have, you know, like that does not work. So funding is actually an essential element of making sure we get to do this together, because if we don't get to sort of support folks who wouldn't otherwise have access by giving resources, then we don't get to hear from the communities that sort of whose voices we most sort of want to hear from, right? And be in collaboration with.
Absolutely. I think
that's what my brain did when you said funding.
Yes. Well, and that's really what the Day of Giving is about. And as Adrian said, there is still more time to give. We met our goal, but we are going for a stretch goal. We are trying to reach that 10,000 by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. And funding, as Rebecca put so eloquently, makes projects like this possible. It makes us able to hear from the people who need the support the most, and you know, that give us the picture of our full region. So we just want to thank everyone who's joined us throughout the day. We thank you to everyone who's already given so far. And we just really are pushing through for that stretch goal, and just want to thank each and every one of you for joining us for our Day of Giving. It doesn't stop here. It keeps going until 8 a.m. tomorrow. We'll be back here bright and early with a few special guests and more to share then. Thank you, everyone, so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful night. Oh, and please, when we go off, hit that link in the chat and go take the community mapping survey. We're ending a little bit early just to give you that extra little nudge of time, because we all know time is a valuable commodity. But take that 10 minutes and fill out that survey. We want to hear from you. Your voice matters. And we thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.